What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Rimworld. Hope you're having a good Sunday. That's not been too bad so far, I guess. I was with. There's a little bit of an exception, though. I scheduled a contractor to come out and give me a quote on a thing that's going on outside with my garage. I've got a little bit of a minor leak right at the header of the garage door. It's nothing super major, but it's a leak that's big enough that makes you understand that something's got to be done, to change it. Nothing appears to be rotting or anything like that, at least not yet. But whenever it rains, sometimes you can look up at the header area, and there's a little space between like the bottommost board and I guess like the beginning of the first truss, and you can kind of see how things in there get damp, you know. And I think what it is that the original builders forgot to include flashing underneath the the siding right there in that area, or else they just didn't do it right. Because sometimes in the beginning, once I first noticed it, I could get up there with a ladder and look at basically where the trim is around the header area, and it looks like there's a little bit of like an unsealed how do I even word this? It looks like almost as if there's either a split or a cut in in the fascia and the bottommost piece of siding that's right there in that section. And there's been times before when I would get up there after it had just rained and I could look at water actually draining into that little split, you know? And it's like a little teeny tiny split of like maybe, I don't know how big it is, man. It's like maybe a half an inch in size, and it's literally like a hairline split. It's in it, and it looks like it's only in the fascia and the siding, as if somebody got up there like they were trying to do something at some point, and it literally looks like somebody like accidentally cut it with something like maybe a utility knife or maybe a saw or something. So, and I there was evidence that somebody at one point got up there at one point to apply some caulking to it. So, long story short, I mean, I know it's something that the original builders apparently did at one point, and I think the person that was living here before me probably noticed it as well, and they tried to deal with it by applying caulking up there. Well, anyway, I've been trying to do that myself, and this last time I even tried to use a specific type of stuff that's like meant for external panel joins or something. You know, it's like one of those kinds of uh, elastic kinds of compounds that can kind of fluctuate with temperature variations when stuff like siding and stuff moves around in the differences of heat and or temperature. And I've applied that up there now, and I don't know if I'm going to get any mileage out of that or not. And all of this is assuming that that's where the water's coming in at anyway. But with that being said, I mean, I've gotten up there and I've tried to dick around with it with caulk and stuff, and it's just not really worked so far. And so, long story short, I tried to get a contractor to come out here to give me a quote on what it would take to fix that, assuming it's the flashing and everything that needs to be replaced or installed. And the first guy that I've used before kept giving me the runaround. You know, he would tell me that he would try to come out on a day or a weekend, and he'd never show up. And there was one time that he told me he would be here on a day and time, and he was no call, no show. And this last guy told me that he would call me sometime this morning to arrange a time to come out today, and he never called. So it's like one thing after another with these people, man. It's like I don't know what's going on really with some of these kinds of guys, but when it comes to contractors in the country right now, or at least here in Indiana, man, we're talking about some of the most bottom of the barrel types of people. None of them have work ethics. They always wind up having excuses. They never deliver on anything that they put their name to. You know, they always look for shortcuts in their work. They never show up on time, or if they give you a quote, it's usually an absurd amount of money. for some of the most basic stuff too. Like I had one guy one time. So to give you a little bit of a history about my house, my house is like a 1920s era home, okay, and it's built on a its foundation is not even remotely close to being the best of foundations, because the basement walls that it had at one point, or at least 50% of them at one point, had this stuff called vitrified clay block, which is kind of like a ceramic block, and this particular type uh, of block, it has horizontal voids. So whenever water gets in and penetrates those blocks, it has an easier route to kind of go around inside the wall, and that can be obviously problematic for things like waterproofing and everything. So I replaced about 50% of those walls a few years ago, and some of the work that that comprised of was the installation of an I-beam down in my basement to support the floor joists. And the contractors that did that kind of stuff, they put one end on some of the older remaining block, like that vitrified clay block stuff, where the other end was then put on their new CMUs. Well, I've been trying to find somebody who can redo the old block side, because it doesn't, the block that the contractors put that end on, it's not good, man. There's like cracks in some of those blocks and stuff. I mean, I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon or any kind of stuff like that, but anybody with any sense understands that it's not something that you want to do nothing about. So, um, I've been trying to find somebody who can come in and do that kind of work, because it's not going to be a small project, really. I mean, it's not going to be super huge, but it's not going to be one that you just want any Tom, Dick, and Harry to mess with, because you're going to have somebody who understands the nuances of supporting things like joists and floor leveling and stuff like that. And on top of that, you got to have somebody who understands masonry concepts, and point and tucking of joint compounds and mortar and stuff like that. So I had one outfit, and this is the reason I'm bringing all this up. I had one outfit come out here one time, and the guy was a really nice guy. He was from a town that's not really far from where I live, and everything on his credential sheet and website looked great. Plenty of experience. He's done all sorts of this, that, and whatnot, and blah blah blah. Great, fine. So I get him to come out to the house. He takes some measurements and things like that, and blah blah blah. And we have a good talk and everything. And I'm really digging this guy, because I ask him about his company. How many people are working for him, what kinds of projects he's done, and blah blah blah. And he makes the first red flag that came up was during that conversation, because he tells me about how last year or the year before or something like that, his company raked in about $22 million. I was thinking to myself, well, that's okay. I'm thinking to myself, I don't know a whole lot about this stuff, so maybe he's telling the truth. Who knows? So I kind of brushed it off, and like I said, he takes his measurements and everything and leaves, and he tells me that he'll give me a quote in about a week or something, because he had to go and price things up or whatever. And I was like, okay, fine. So a week goes by, no response. I'm thinking to myself, well, he's probably just busy. So I try to track him down, and after a couple days, I finally get a hold of him, because I guess he was at some sort of job site doing some stuff, and I'm like, hey, can't remember what his name was. We'll just say Joe. I was like, hey Joe, did you get that quote done? He's like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It's in my office on my desk, and he was like, I can't really remember right now what it was. And I was like, well, can you at least give me some sort of ballpark figure? And you know what he says? He says that in order to basically rip out about 2 feet by 2 feet. It was basically like a 2 foot by 2 foot column of the old block that one end of the I-beam was resting on. Rip that out and install a new up to code CMU based 2 by 2 column. He said in order to do that, it would cost about $22,000. And I literally laughed. I was like, Joe, really, what is it, man? Are you just kind of hounding me, or what? And he's like, no, that's really what we were gonna charge you. And I told him, I was like, there's no way I'm paying that, man. That's way overboard. And you know what he says in response? He's like, you really think so? So needless to say, I didn't go with him. Um, the average cost that I've seen so far from other contractors that I've had that have looked at that same thing and given me a quote for it have been between $1,200 and like 3.5 to 4 grand. And I actually expected that too. But the only reason that I haven't selected, I mean, I've actually selected a contractor for that, and it was another no call no show type of thing where I told the guy that I was interested in using his company, but he never really responded, and for whatever reasons. I don't know why. I think it was because he was wanting me to accept a thing on his website, because he at one point was he sent me like a link to a quote that was generated through some sort of what I thought was a little bit of a sketchy website, and I didn't click on it, but I told him over text that I was definitely wanting him to do the job. But I think because I never selected the thing on his website, he took that as a, well, I'm not going to dick around with you type of thing. So I kind of moved on to this other guy that I had do some work last year on a roof of mine. He did work where he basically ripped out a flat roof that I had and replaced it with a gable, and they did fantastic work, man. I mean, they really aced it, and they needed to, because they charged me about, I think it was about 7 grand to do the work. But I mean, in their defense, they, like I said, they did fantastic work, and it was about, I think it was a pretty good cost for what, or quote for what they did, because they didn't just do that. I mean, they threw in insulation, did a bunch of stuff with, siding and soffit work and guttering, and they also installed a ridge vent along um, the main body of my house too. So that was one thing that they did too. But I spoke to that guy a long time ago about him and his crew doing the work down there in the basement, and they acted like they were interested in doing it, but um, getting them to actually do the work, or at least to come out and give me official quotes and stuff on things, has been a bear lately, because that was one of the people that I've been trying to get out here to the house to give me the quote on the garage door thing. And he was the guy that kept telling me that he'd come out, and at one point told me he'd be out here on a day and time, and wound up being a no call no show. So I mean, I know these guys are always busy and stuff, and I try not to necessarily take it personally, but the thing is that it's hard not to take it personally whenever you're the one that's sitting there trying to accommodate their schedule and time, going as far as taking time off to meet them at the house, only to see them no call no show. So I mean, it's like when you're sitting there taking time off, using your leave and everything to make things like that work, just to get them to give you a quote on things, not even to do the work, just to give you a quote. I mean, you're left with this appraisal of them simply being bums. And I mean, I hate to be that guy, but it's it. I mean, it makes sense why they're in the fields that they're in whenever you see that type of shit happening. I mean, nobody on earth, I don't care what anybody says, you can sit there and tell yourself that you love your job all you want, but nobody on earth wants to do manual labor. I'm sorry, nobody does, because at some point, shit like your back is going to start hurting. You're going to wind up having creaky knees and everything, and there's a reason it's called manual labor. Nobody likes manual labor. And when you see these people that are doing these kinds of things, you realize why they're in the fields that they're in. I mean, you're talking about people who can't maintain personal personal work ethic. They can't deliver on times and dates. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of great people out there. I know that I'm kind of being generalizing here, because not everybody and their brother is like this, but you know, when the majority of them do this type of stuff where they don't call you when they're not going to show up, all that stuff, it it's it's difficult not to have a sour taste in your mouth from people that work in these disciplines. I mean, it really, really just gets so frustrating. I sometimes think back to myself. I sometimes regret buying the house that I have because of some of these experiences. I mean, it's just been like pulling teeth. So anyway, that's kind of the stuff that I've been up to this morning. Not really happy about it. Anyway, so yeah, welcome to Rimworld. Anyway, if you weren't here for the last episode, what we're doing here is just kind of making this final wall on the outside. And this is going to be the last wall that we make here. And the reason I'm doing this is not only to have more space to do stuff with in terms of like on inside of our, or it, to have more base rooms and stuff like that, but it's also because I'm wanting to focus more on our home's defenses, and I don't want to focus on that until I'm done with this wall stuff because um, the overall plan here is to make at least 2 rows of these uranium slug turrets on the outermost wall. Because once I finish that, I'm going to summon these types of these things that this game refers to as mech threats, which is a major thing in this game because you summon those threats, which is basically like a bunch of machines. Okay, you summon these machines, they come, you destroy them, and then from the wreckage of their corpses and stuff, you get certain kinds of components that you research and can then use to build other stuff that you have to have in order to be able to support things like your own mechs. Excuse me. And that's the reason I'm doing all this. So I'm doing it not only for the defensive purposes, but also just to have more space to build more rooms in and stuff. Okay. Anyway, so let me see here. Let me get my planner out again. So we've got 2, 2, 3, 2, 2. Actually, let's just do this. Let's do 2, 2, 3. 2, 2, 3. Alright. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So 15 twos. 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Alright, we can start. I apologize too if anybody's watching this for getting on a little bit of a soapbox about stuff. I know that a lot of people that use YouTube and stuff, they obviously don't want to sit there and listen to someone bitch and complain about stuff, but I'm the type of person though that has to get shit out of the system in order to kind of be productive, you know. And there's there's just there's a lot of bullshit going on in my life right now, so it's kind of therapeutic, I guess. I suppose it might be. It's. I've seen videos out there on YouTube, for example, that are like these random people. They get out there and they make these videos of things like this game or something where they're streaming or not streaming, but it's like a recording of someone playing a game, but they're sitting there talking about world events or something, and I don't know, man. Maybe I'm turning into one of those kinds of people. I don't mean to. It's just like I said, man. There's a lot of shit going on right now in my life, and it's just kind of therapeutic to be able to talk about it sometimes. There's like stuff going on with the house, stuff going on all the time with my vehicles, and stuff lately that's been going on a lot that's been festering in me about my job. So the good news though is that I think a lot of stuff is on my side. Um, Not like hurting for cash or any kind of stuff like that, and I am beginning to kind of apply to jobs. I'm not. On a level of seriousness, or on a scale of seriousness, where 0 would be not serious at all, and 10 being, oh my god, I got to get out of this place. I'd say right now I'm more like on kind of a 6 or 7, which is a little high. Not really though. I mean, because there's always a chance that things can change at your job. Like either a boss quits or gets fired, or maybe there's like a restructuring type of thing or something like that. I don't really think anything like that's going to happen anytime soon. Usually, I'm somebody who doesn't like restructuring stuff simply because it usually means that there's going to be a pretty good amount of people, or at least a few people, that are going to wind up losing their job. And where I work, there's not anything like that that's going on. I mean, we're not anywhere close to something like that. Now, last year or the year before, we kind of were, because the place that I work at, we were kind of having some budget issues, and I think we've kind of managed to get beyond that, though. But with that being said, though, I mean, there's things going on right now where I work at, as well as in the industry that I work in general, that I'm not too crazy about. And it's kind of a hit and miss sort of scenario, because not every employer does the kinds of stuff that I'm kind of alluding to. But I mean, even the stuff that I don't like, I can kind of deal with it. It's just it creates a situation where I don't really enjoy my job anymore, and I don't want it to get to that point, because the whole reason that I do the stuff that I do is because I at one point enjoyed it. So with that being said, I mean, I can write it out if I have to, and I mean, for the time being, I'm gonna have to, because there's just not any other alternative right now. I applied to one job that was for the city, and it turned out to be full of red flags. And the job that I just recently applied to isn't really a job that I feel completely qualified for anyway. But I thought to myself, well, let's go ahead and apply to it and get our name out there to them. That way, they know of us, and just kind of see where it can lead. You know, because I think, as far as the technical requirements of the job that I applied to here lately, it's something that I'd feel kind of comfortable with, because it's right in my wheelhouse. But it's the other stuff where you've got to be dealing with politics and managing people that I don't really feel very comfortable with. And it's also a position that's got a lot of liability, because it kind of acts as the go-to for the overall user experience and user interface stuff that the entire place depends on. And I don't know if I'm very comfortable with having that kind of responsibility. I just don't. I don't like that. I'm the kind of guy that you want to just kind of throw things at in a closet somewhere and leave him alone, so that he can just do the work. And unfortunately, in my line of work, you don't really get those kinds of opportunities very often, which is why it's going to be kind of difficult to find something to replace what I have. Because with all of the bad stuff that I feel like I go through right now in the job that I have, it has an awful lot of good stuff too. Like, most of the time, I can usually be left alone, where I can kind of do the stuff that I like to do. But here, these past few years, it's not been as enjoyable as it usually is. I think in order to do this, I'm gonna have to tear that wall out. So anyway, um, like I said, man, there's just a lot of stuff that's going on, and like I said, it's just kind of therapeutic sometimes to be able to talk about it. We have a shit ton of chem fuel. Pretty happy about that. Abby's turning out to be quite the little sniper. We need to start putting cream in the biosculptor pod for age reversal. I'll try to get on that here for too long. Any of you guys follow politics and stuff? Now, I'll just say up front that I'm a MAGA guy. I'm 100% on the Trump train. And if you are, um, I'm hoping you'll watch tonight's Madison Square Garden rally. So far, I'm whenever Trump has any kinds of rallies or anything, the RSBN channel on YouTube is always there covering it, and right now they're covering the stuff before the rally. You know, interviewing people that are in the crowd and stuff in the line waiting to get in. And you should see the line, man. This entire I don't know New York City at all, so I don't know what street it is, but they're showing an entire street that just has an ocean of people lining up, just waiting to get into the building. It's insane. It's hard to wrap your head around just how many people are out there. I don't know how many people they're expecting for this thing, but the lineup is pretty awesome too. They're going to have RFK Jr., Elon Musk, Dana White. I'm assuming there's going to be a bunch of bands and stuff there. Tulsi Gabbard, JD Vance. I mean, it's basically going to be everybody in the Trump train that's going to show up there tonight. And I think he's expected to speak at 5. The program, I think, is expected to start somewhere around 2 o'clock, but I don't know. By the time you see this video, you'll probably wind up... Oh, got a fire. By the time you see this video, chances are it'll be over, but it ought to be a fun watch, though. His rallies are always entertaining. Now, I mean, I'm not so in love with Trump or something that I can't see his flaws. I mean, I know that the guy's got his issues. And with his rallies, I mean, it's usually... we all know that he loves to prattle on and on about the same shit. But with that being said, though, despite that, I personally still view the guy as being pretty damned authentic. And in my opinion, I think he's trustworthy. I know that there's a lot of people out there that don't see that, but I'll just say this, man. I trust Trump way more than I do Kamala. But that's just me. Everyone has their reasons and justifications for things, and I never try to look down on anybody for voting in a way that I disagree with or anything like that. Let's go ahead and harvest these. Now, last episode, I had planned pipe to be installed underneath this. Oh, okay, so it's still... Is it actually there? Power conduit, yeah, I guess they did do it. It's weird because I can't really see it. And these aren't... So we gotta reconnect it. I don't understand why I keep having to do that sometimes with these things. Well, not these things, but just like things in general. It seems like I gotta do that a lot. Let me get that fired. Is that the only one? Okay. Alright, so... as I'm sure you can understand, I've laid down a bunch of these things to try to soak up the water that's in the ground so that we'll be able to build on top of it with our plasteel stuff. Now, as you can see here, though, we're going to run into issues here, and I don't know how yet I'm going to deal with this. I think I might just kind of run the wall up to here and just kind of, God damn it, we still got a fire. Um, I think for the time being, I might just connect the wall up to this until I have some things like built out into this extra space to move the stuff into. Because I don't know if I'm going to move this stuff into here or somewhere in here after I relocate some of the stuff that's in here. I don't know how I'm going to do that yet. We'll take, and we're looking actually really awesome on components, so that's definitely good. I don't really think that we need medicine either or something like that by that. Get rid of maybe some clothes. I don't need to get rid of anything like that either. A small trade, but we'll take it, I guess. Let's see if we can. The initial idea that I had was that I was going to use this new space to relocate all of the living spaces out here into this stuff. Because I think out here it's going to be more than big enough to create. Jesus Christ, man, there's always a fucking fire. What in the hell? This is pissing me off. Okay, let me see something. There's somebody that's coming out here to deal with it. Okay, there they are. Heavy. Probably not the best time to chow down. Have to add that to our zone, I guess. Wish I could use some sort of water skip stuff or something, but I thought about maybe using one of those mortars to deal with this. I don't understand is why there's nobody else that's coming out to help. There's Alo. Shit like this just drives me insane. Shouldn't have to define zones to get them to have some level of common sense about these things. There, Jesus. Deleting that, no, I'm gonna have to redo that. Alright, there, jeez. As I was saying, if I can put a bunch of the living spaces in here, because you gotta remember, this is gonna be a pretty big space, so I'm gonna basically have a hallway that goes through the center with rooms on each side, okay? I don't know how many rooms that's gonna be comprised of, but that's gonna be a lot. And that's kind of what I want. But I kind of thought that I would break up these side areas right there and top and bottom into like rec room space somehow. Hey, what do you know? Another fire. Okay, that one I'll try to have some fun with. That's the only fire. Looks like it is. One more. Just let the rest of that burn for a while. She's on the verge of breaking. Hopefully she'll make it to her bedroom before that. That's running good. That'll put. Oh, damn fires, man. Pain in the rear. Still got these two. Put out. There's one. Come on. Come on. There we go. Finally out. Okay. Forgot to mention last night I made some kick-ass sushi, man. Uh-oh. Savannah's in labor. I guess I can't. You're supposed to be able to. God, this game. You're supposed to be able to gather for childbirth, but I guess I can't do that until she's placed now in the medical bed. Um, well, last night I made some. You should have seen all the sushi that I made, man, and I wasn't even able to eat even remotely close to all of it. Made some nigiri, some maki rolls, um, yellowfin tuna, and I think salmon. Yeah, duh. What am I thinking? Yellowfin tuna and salmon. Let me get this here. Tiffy, thick, fay, nuclear. Okay, let's go again. I had two full plates worth and a small plate worth of stuff. Oh, and I also made a type of baby spinach roll. You basically kind of roll it up after letting it be dipped in water, hot water. You compact it, roll it up, and then you sprinkle some. Who is that? Oh, is that one of the guys that we had? Yeah, I think we saved him at one point. I guess he's decided to leave. You sprinkle toasted sesame seeds on top of the roll, and it's pretty awesome. So, ate that last night. Man, I thought I was gonna burst. And I still have some in my fridge, which I don't usually eat sushi after it's been refrigerated, but I didn't really feel right letting it go. Usually, it's been my experience that you can usually kind of eat it if it's been kept in the fridge for one day, but after that, you want to probably get rid of it because the rice begins to harden up and stuff like that. Here we go. Come on. Come on. All right. Hey, baby. Is it a boy or a girl? It is a boy. Rama? Yeah, I kind of like that. Sure, why not? Okay, so that was Savannah's boy. Let's see where. Savannah's family. In here. Older names, I guess. Maybe it's one of the inner ones. Yeah, here they are. Okay. Okay. So this will be Rama's. Man, we're getting quite the colony going here. She's next. Here. let's take care of it. The first time I made sushi on my own with actual fish, I wound up, I got sick from it. I think it was that because see what happened was it was like a, when was it? I think it was like a Saturday night. I made the sushi. I bought a piece of yellowtail because she's having an episode or something. She's getting really old. I bought a piece of what they referred to as sushi grade tuna. I think it was yellowtail at one of my local grocery stores. And this was back when I didn't know anything about what the hell I was doing with it. And I bought the thing. It's about the size of a small plate. Brought it home, sliced everything up, rolled it up, blah blah blah, ate it. Everything tasted fine. Didn't see any didn't see anything crawling around on it or any kind of stuff like that. But everything tasted fine. And went to bed, no problems. Woke up that next morning, no problems. But as I was sitting or walking around the house that following day, cleaning things up, it's like something washed all over me. It's like suddenly out of nowhere, my stomach starts feeling weird, like as in throwing up. And not to get too gross here or anything, but it was like a few minutes after that started, everything was just coming out of both ends, man. And it got really bad there for a second. I thought it got so bad to the point in terms of like throwing up that I thought I was going to have to go to the ER at some point. But after a few minutes of being completely incapacitated by the toilet, I can't remember really if I fell asleep by the toilet or not. I think I may have. I don't know. But at some point, I was able to crawl back to my freaking bed and sleep the rest of it off. Thank God. But you never ever want to get sick from sushi like that, because I think what it was more than likely a parasite. And after researching things, I've come to understand that in order to beat that, you put the damn thing in a freezer it has to be like at a minimum of -10 degrees Fahrenheit in your freezer, I believe. And that's what I set it to, and you let it sit in there for about a week, because I guess that kills off anything that would do that to you. Now, I don't think it's 100% foolproof, at least in some rare occasions, and a lot of that depends on just how big the piece is that you're working with and stuff like that. But for the pieces that I buy, which are just kind of like any kind of steak that you can get from your big box stores or your grocery stores and stuff, I think it works. Now, if you're gonna do Enzo and Matthews, okay, I think for something like that you see on YouTube or on TV, where you see those dudes shopping at those big seafood markets in places like Japan or Spain or something like that, where they buy big slabs of these massive, huge pieces of fish and stuff, that wouldn't work, obviously, because you're talking about a much bigger piece of meat that would have to stay in a frozen state, minimum temperature for a much longer duration, I think. But for the little pieces that you buy at your big box grocery stores, whether it be ahi tuna, yellowtail tuna, your slabs of salmon and stuff like that you can buy there, and usually in the frozen foods area or the seafood department. If you keep it at a minimum of 10 degrees Fahrenheit, and for what I would advise to be at least a week, some professionals say that you can get by on 48 hours, but I don't like to risk anything after having been sick from it before. So I would suggest keeping it at that state for a week. And as long as you do that, so far at least from every single time that I've done that so far, it's been 100% successful. Not a single hitch. And the tuna and the fish and everything, it tastes perfectly fine. It's perfectly fresh. There's also another thing too, another tip, that when you open up the packaging of the fish, you want to smell it. And all fish that's been packaged is obviously going to smell fishy, but there's a difference between normal fishy smell and, hey, this is fucked up fishy smell. And that's the kind of fishy smell that you don't want to risk anything with. with. So I mean, if it tastes or I mean, if it smells abnormally fishy, as in like, oh my god, that that is rank, something like that, then that's usually the kind of fish that you don't want to use for sushi. So there's the smell test, there's the frozen formula that you need to use, and there's also one third thing concerning discoloration. Now with tuna, usually that's supposed to be pink, red, almost. If you see a if you see that your tuna fish or whatever is turning something like, I don't know, like almost a white or some shit like that, chances are you're gonna wind up smelling it too. But if you see that kind of discoloration, then you obviously don't want to use that piece of fish either. You gotta kind of use a certain amount of common sense with some of this stuff, you know. Kenzo does not have a room, so we need to fix that. Let me see here. This one. Let's see here. Where is he? So he's in the workshop. Okay, so that'll be fine. Okay, let's zone this one up. So we got 1, 2, 3. Well, it's not really gonna matter because, well, 1, 2, 3. Okay. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and remove those. What's there? It is. Do want this though. Again, just to make sure that I'm on the right point here. From gate to gate. I think over here it's different. Oh, it isn't. Okay. I remember that. Okay. In fact, one. Yeah, let's. What I want to do here, and the reason I want to do this is to make absolutely certain that I don't eventually foul up anything. It's if I remember right, I think it's 9. The reason I'm doing that is because I want to make sure that by the time I get down here, I don't forget that this is the only difference in this whole thing down here. I can't remember why I did that. I think it was just an accident, but I should have gone down one more and then started across, and I didn't do it like that. Go ahead and reinstall these. Okay, so let's get reinstalled one more block out there. And I think what I'm going to do, glass steel doors. Actually, an auto door. This to be really nice. That's to remove that at some point once we get to that point. There. That for now. Or if Matthews or what's his face or Use and Kenzo. Guess Kenzo isn't struggling that much. Whenever Gabs and Newton broke up, it took a long time for Gabs to kind of get over it. So whenever these breakups happen, you always gotta worry about whether or not they're gonna have fits and stuff like that. And it lasts for a while. It lasts for like a month or something. Kicking ass on food though. Doing really good with that. But one thing I'm noticing though is that our rice production isn't as good as what I'd prefer it to be. So it's almost kind of making me wonder if we need to somehow use one of these spaces for some more growing basins. Now that I think about it, we could, like, okay, so we could have like a main room at the entryways that we can use for things like rec stuff, you know. Right next to that, we could make additional growing basins, and then in between those spaces, put the bedrooms. Because if we do that, that would give us 1, 2, if we can make it work over here, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That would give us 8 growing basin setups. That would basically double what we have now. And if we did do that, that would also then make it to where we could remove these and use these for something. Maybe we could make those our like master storage wings. Just fill everything out with storage, you know? It's just more, the more and more I think about what I'm doing here, the more and more I'm liking the fact that I decided to go this route. It's going to be a shit ton of work, but I think it'll be worth it, man. Okay, looks like this stuff is beginning to dry up. Let's see if we can... We're still kind of... There's 1, 2, 3, 3 threes. You needing to use these. It just takes forever for them to do the stuff that they've got to do. we hit 100 of the components, I'm gonna have them work again on some of the other stuff. Damn it, little asshole. Sellers. Whenever it comes time to doing this fence area with the new wall and stuff, I'm gonna wait until winter, because by then all of the animals will be in the other pen and we won't have to worry about things running away. Get that other water thing done? Yes. Okay. So let's go ahead and construct that. Structure. Ooh, this could be good. Okay, hold on a second. Get this first. Usually these selling to Caspice or whatever missions are usually pretty awesome. Let's see what it says. Architect leg, persona core. Sadly, it's not really what I was hoping it would be. Might having that plasteel though. What is it? 22 parkas, normal quality. How are we looking on plasteel? 2,000. I think I'm gonna. Do that. I might have done it if either we had another one of those psychic emitter things or one of those power generation things, but none of this is really as tempting to me as anything else. I mean, the architect leg I wouldn't mind having, but it's not enough for me to actually want to do it. I wish I could. I don't like the fact that I keep getting these things. It's really irritating. Never selling my colony. Stop asking. I need to get this mined. We're not going to be able to put anything over the deep water. We might be able to do stuff a little bit, at least, with the shallow water if I ever get it dried up, you know. Out here to be tamed. Really? Oh no. Snap. So if we're doing a cold snap, then let's see what's 65, 69. We'll be okay. Cannot wait to have those mech rechargers. Yeah, it's getting cold. Fahrenheit, 0, -1, -2, 3. Yikes. Yeah, that's getting cold, alright. -10. Glitter World. Oh, that's us. Right. Some plasteel though. Foals, the fowls, foals. I don't know how you pronounce that. Go ahead and give them these two. Okay, maybe not. I guess we'll just stay at this then. Well, actually, hold on. Are they willing to buy cloth? Seeing it. Hmm. Screw it. This will be enough. Okay. There it is. I hadn't taken that stuff in. Yeah, it is definitely cold outside. Guys, I think I'm gonna end this episode right here. I want to play more, but I also want to watch the Trump rally over there at Madison Square Garden. So I'm gonna end the episode right now. I'll more than likely play a little more later, but if not, um, just keep your eyes open for some episodes, I guess. But in any event, whenever I get back, I'm just gonna kind of keep doing what I'm doing here. This wall is actually kind of progressing pretty quickly. And it's going to be winter soon, which means that we'll be able to put the animals in the indoor pens and start working on some of the gates and things like that. So anyway, let me do a save here. There we go. And I will see you guys when I see you. Be safe, have a good remaining rest of your weekend, and until next time.